Arts Commission. Today is Wednesday, December 20th, 2017, City Hall. We are in City Hall, room 604, and do roll call quick. Ken Tutchison, I am here. Alex Zacharias, Vice Chair.
Here.
Alderman Randy Scannell.
Present.
Pooja Weller.
Here.
And Matthew Buchanan. And then we also have Laura Schley,
Here.
our arts coordinator. Liaison representatives, we have Stacy Thompson. Oh, Stacy, we need augmentation, don't we? Your last name?
Oh, yeah, that's changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Minx.
Minx, how do you spell that?
M-I-N-C-K-S.
Congratulations.
Thanks, that's old news.
From Mosaic, Beth Lemke
Here.
and Lee Clemens. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from November 29th?
Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We have no communication today. We have one item which we will discuss right now. Old business, we've discussed it already, but we have some final products in front of us. Discussion with possible action to review fundraising packet for the GBPAC. So we devised a subcommittee of sorts. And Pooja, would you like to take it away?
Well, I sat with Laura and we came up with a strategy based on, other examples and stuff. And so if you can imagine, so without going into nitty-gritty, this would go into a folder. On the cover would be the logo and ideally a quote from the mayor. That's what we're trying to get. This is the letter from the chair, which I think needs to be formatted slightly different since you have to start here to read it down, which I don't think it's natural. I think we need to just have it as a box.
What if we tilted everything the other way, the other direction?
Well then your vote, I guess you could
Or you could
feather
just
that
go
way,
down
that's
here.
fine too,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
It's just, the idea was to create it into a box. Okay, so these three would feather through, you could just, read everything. The three testimonials we're still waiting from. And then we have a donation slip. Essentially, this was the, which I could not get to Laura, I apologize. Which we had come up with, but my Microsoft Word has abandoned me, so. I've tried many different versions. I even tried to coach his computer. That didn't work. So then we have this slip that goes into the folder with an envelope. Ideally, they go online to do payments, which we're confirming in Celestine whether or not that's going to be a viable option. Although we do have to receive payment to the Green Bay Foundation. So we need to figure out how that ties together. There's that little bit.
Has that been established already, by the way? That relationship?
They told us that we shouldn't really be contacting them until we have like a pool set up.
Really? So we have
I do
like,
believe that, too.
Basically.
like till we have actual checks?
Yeah,
Yeah.
A kiddie pool?
Yeah.
Like evidence that we are getting funds.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Because, and I believe the critical mass was a certain amount of money that we need to have already received in donations. But okay, so one thing that's critical is that you guys need to figure out what, to receive donations, what is our path? From the person, what's the name on the check the person has to write, which account does it go into, and how do we access those funds? So I think once you figure that out, you'll be able to decide how are you going to go about receiving checks, cash, or online donations. And I think that's very important before
Okay.
any of this can go forward.
But, okay, does it make sense that, to me, it's a little bit confusing. So we'll be receiving funds to the city of Green Bay until we get a critical mass, and then we'll be receiving funds for Greater Green Bay Community Foundation? Is that how
Sounds
it
kind
works?
of,
So we have to bonify ourselves, kind of, for the,
to a certain extent, we already received 75,000 from the excess tax dollars.
Mhm.
In some cases, some people would say that's a lot already.
I guess we have to have another conversation with those guys.
I think you do.
and to see what we really need.
Because they
to do.
also moved away from some of those services, like
Really?
fundraising and stuff, which was why they said that they need to
Can you
approach them with
turn that
critical
off?
mass.
I don't know how to turn off that sound.
On the record. Okay.
When I met with, his name is Dennis, I met with him earlier in the fall, but he had mentioned that they don't really do as much fundraising efforts.
Yeah.
They kind of just
Yeah, that's-
organize and stuff because it's not fair to help fundraise for this arts org and then.
Right.
I guess we were raising.
So that, my understanding, we had that conversation a long time ago, I think, Beth, were you there? Was that, no? But I think you were that initial and they do not provide fundraising services, and that's fine, but they provide the services for handling all of our money.
Money management.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Donor management.
And I'd like to get that established as soon as possible, I guess. So what do we have to do in order to start getting services? So that those checks can say Greater Green Bay Foundation instead of the City of Green Bay. I guess that was the point.
Yes.
Do you guys have any insight on this?
Yes.
Yeah?
If you do a capital campaign like the symphony, you really need a structure, an organizational structure to put that money into. I'm looking, I get donations for this year in our orchestra, that's in operational funds. So like often a symphony will have
That's
an
right.
auxiliary, so that's it's a corporate structure, it's not that hard, then you have to invest the money, you need the people to do that. Green Bay Foundation has done some interesting things. If you have a capital fundraise and give them $10,000, they'll, without having to set up a corporation, so you don't have all those corporate fees and structures, but there's strings with that too. It's a simple contract. But you have $10,000, you get 4% back per year. They keep the money and they use the money in other ways. They have a big pool of investments, so you can, for $10,000, it's pretty hard to be diversified. Okay, but 4%, I mean, I've seen symphony auxiliary boards with somebody on the bank who can put together a financial portfolio at substantially lower cost and a substantially better return. Plus you have some flexibility within that structure to say, hey, this is a bad year, we need more than 4%. So their contract is pretty rigid. That being said, some of that money you raise goes to other things in the community, and there's a good side to that. I've been looking at, well, do we partner with them? We're music. I've been looking at the Green Bay. People invest. They won't necessarily invest with the Civic because we don't know if we're going to be here next year. Okay, but they will invest with the foundation, so that's been something that's unique to Green Bay. The Harvard Foundation, people put money in because they know they can they have power things, they can do that. Green Bay is the UWGB has a foundation, and it's kind of linked to education. Part of our mission is, hey, it's about education, it's about music, it's about symphony. That kind of links to their program of music.
Right.
If we went under, where would that money go? You know, that would go back to music. So that may better fit. Arts, what are your options for arts? I don't know. But you have to have a structure, and when we have a 403C, a corporation, you can create an arts or mosaic arts or something like that. We can do some things in the city. You can get grants from the city. You can have that within a relatively small structure. So it really has to do with how we create an entity that can receive funds, your fundraising. Is it city? Is it a separate corporation? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think it is city, right?
Right. We can get grants from the city, and that's like a grant, or we get a grant from so-and-so's foundation for our operations. And that's kind of where we are here. So I never quite understood this. Is a commission of the city?
Yes.
Can the city take donations? I mean, because when you go into the general coffers, you're doing, it's like our operational funds. It's in here as opposed to that corporation.
We don't receive any money from the city.
Okay.
I think we're just we're a commission that's organized within the city. And we have to do our own independent fundraising. And we'd be working in conjunction with the Green Bay Community Foundation. And they'd be doing all of our numbers, essentially, and receiving all the money.
Yeah, it's like, basically what we're going to be paying them for is their donor management.
Right.
And to make sure that they get the necessary documentation back to the person who donates money to this commission, like tax deduction sheets and everything. So the only thing though is that I do remember them saying that we needed to have a certain amount of money before we
Okay.
went to them. But in order to have that certain amount of money, where do those checks get written out to?
Yeah.
To whom? So, and I think that in one thing, we need to clarify with Celestine.
Okay.
And
She
probably,
just came. She just
oh,
here.
perfect. Hello.
Hello.
So then we need to see, like, you know, where, who are we going to write those checks to? And then what is that fine print that we have to put on a donation slip? Like says, you know, we are a X organization, your contribution is not charitably, or tax deductible. You know, all that stuff that you usually have at the bottom, legal speak, it needs to be at the bottom. That I put in there right now as a placeholder, but it's not accurate. So it essentially is a regular donation slip. You've seen though, you know, it's like your name, address, cash, check, online. So the question is, can we receive online donations yet?
Not until the website is up, and then Laura and I would have to work with Mike
yeah.
and Shelby
And
to do
then,
that.
and so, okay, and then that money would go straight into our checking account.
Would go into the fund that we have, that's right.
Right, and then, but a check needs to be written out to, do we say GBPAC?
So, because right now, the way that GBPAC, it draws down funds
Yeah.
from the stadium, excess stadium
That's right.
tax. And the city does have a 501c3. We
Oh,
do, so we have a
okay.
nonprofit number, and we are tax exempt. So whenever I go, although I never do this, but, you know, when you go make purchases, I can give them our tax exempt
Right,
ID.
and that-
But I would just have to check with Diana about the mechanics around, because you don't want to put something on, you don't want to say to people that making contribution into GBPAC is like making a political contribution.
Yes, that's what,
You don't get it tax
exactly.
deducted.
That's what we.
So, but I think that there's a way for us to do that until we get things in order to go to the community foundation, have them manage it. But that's just a conversation with Diana.
Okay.
Perfect.
And the GBNLC, which is the model that we could eventually, but they are separate now.
Oh.
They're a separate 501c3. And they are affiliated with the city, but not part of the city.
Interesting.
So would someone who wants to make a donation, could they write out a check? Oh, we have to talk to Diana to
Yeah.
see if
Correct.
it's the
The
city of Green Bay
finance
or
director.
Green Bay Public Arts Commission.
Yeah.
That's right. So now that's,
Yeah.
yay, we're one step closer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It'd be great if it could be the, Green Bay Public Arts Commission, but I don't think that's gonna be, I don't know. I'll have to see. I think it's gonna be the city
I
of
mean,
Green
it
Bay.
exists.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
it is by ordinance.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it is possible to write that out, but like I said, I just have to ask Diana about the mechanics of it.
Yeah, and then also what the fine print needs to be. We need to have something along the lines of, whether or not it's tax deductible, whether or not it's a political contribution or not.
Yeah, it needs to be tax deductible.
Right, so
from the donor.
we need to have all that fine print put on there, because that's what
Right.
we need.
And it's
by-
quite possible that Diana will say to Laura, okay, so Laura, you need to keep track. I'll give you a form, because what's the tax deductible? The tax deductible is you get a form in the mail
Mhm.
if you made a donation saying this is how much
You
you've
don't,
made.
yeah, that's
So that
right.
you can include that documentation in
Yeah,
your tax
taxes.
returns.
Exactly.
Although, I'm not sure what's happening.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, we're just discussing that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Johnson Amendment thing did not get passed, so 501c3s are still not able to do political work, I think. But I honestly don't know.
Yeah, the donation
Yeah,
status.
what's gonna
Right.
happen next, yeah.
Okay, well, it sounds like there's some things
Okay.
in limbo. But, yeah, we'll follow up with Diana, and then,
So the format's there.
yeah.
The folders we've decided that are gonna be blue in color to make it look not too polished, because that was a remark that we had that, we're gonna keep in mind that if it's too polished, it looks like we have way too much money. If it's not polished enough, it looks like we're unorganized.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I said. And then, so we had to find this fine balance in the middle. So there's gonna be some pasting and cutting that goes on there
Okay.
to make it look a little bit homemade. But that packet is, Kent's letter, and then the second page, the content is essentially what you see in front of you. That
This is
content
cool.
will be like that. It might be redesigned slightly in terms of color or the format, like if you switch the angles around. But other than that, the content will be the same. The last page, unfortunately. Angles? Angles. Oh, because they, this does not read well, because it flows like this. No one ever starts up here and then reads down this way. You start up this way. Don't worry about it. Then we have, this one is gonna be the artist stories, to have like little descriptions of what we've already supported in town. That sheet, we are waiting on artists to give us their testimonials or remarks. We want to put a picture of their face or a picture of their project, depending on what we can get a hold of.
Okay.
And so people can see what we've already been what our impact has already been in town. And I think that will be really helpful. The one thing we were both discussing is whether or not we wanted to have chairman biographies and liaison biographies in here. That was something we discussed. And then we thought that might be too much on the onset.
Yeah, for a financial.
Especially because we already have Kent's letter in there. And especially if we have one little a quote about public art from the mayor.
Yeah, sure.
So we could put on the cover. So it's gonna be the logo, and then it's like a quote from him, and then we cut around that, and we paste it on the cover, so it looks handmade.
Sounds good.
Yes, not too fancy, but fancy enough. And then we'll have that ready to go as soon as we get those 3 elements together. The slip, the testimonials, and the quote. And then it's done.
Okay. And the testimonials are coming from,
The 3 that we said, it was a young startup designer or artist, so it would be Brian.
right.
Then we were looking at something of the butterfly, right?
Yep.
The butterfly, and because we already have, that's already out there, people are already taking pictures on Instagram, you can actually see it. That we supported, and what was the third one? I think we said, I can't remember, what was the third one?
It was gonna be Brandon.
Oh, yes, the performance, exactly. Yeah, so then that's the third one. Because then you have visual arts, you have community arts, and then you have performance arts. So then we kind of have a nice umbrella.
Also, it covers our 3 programs as far as like artist letter of support.
Right.
And grants and rotating.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in
Yeah.
regards to our branding, is this continuity with the website, colors and all that?
I pulled these colors from our logo. I just,
Lighten them up a bit.
yeah,
Um,
I took the opacity down so they weren't so in your face.
We
But if you
might,
don't like them,
yeah.
No, I'm okay with it, I was just,
Yeah. So there is the version where we took exactly the color and the text was just in white, so it was a little bit different. And those are those little fine tweaks that we will do before the final version. And I think that once we have more content to put together, actually she has the printouts, then we will decide how do you want to move forward with
Okay.
and of course we'll show it to you, get it approved, and then go on to print.
Okay.
The cutting, that's gonna be fun.
Would it make sense to match the color scheme with the logo?
Oh, yeah, that's, I think, and, well, remember, when Laura does this stuff, she does it with absolutely no support in certain terms of technology. So she's creating this stuff out of using free software she can find online and all this other stuff. I did create a version on Illustrator, except that's a version where we wanted it slightly, like where it's
Yeah, yeah.
angular
Mhm.
instead of straight, you know? So it looks a little bit more abstract.
Sure.
And then you'll actually see that plate, and then the green is actually a lime green. So, which will match into the logo. The only thing is I could not get it to her, so if anybody has access to Microsoft Office, please let me know, the full version, the suite version. I will come to your place of computer and I will make a template for her to use,
Okay.
yeah. So
Yeah,
I
we should do
appreciate
At
that.
the city.
I cannot get a computer right now because I don't want no boxes. My printer and my computer dies.
Well, yeah, you guys have Word, don't you?
Yeah,
Like the full suite one though, where I can actually create templates.
I would think so.
Yes,
Okay.
we do.
Perfect,
They have the sweet one.
We
It's
have-
sweet.
yeah.
We have Illustrator and all the Adobe Creative Suites. Not everybody has
Not
access to
everybody
that,
has.
but you should have access to that. So maybe we need to talk to Mike Ronick to
Oh,
see
then you
if
can't
she can
use
get
it, I'm
that.
sorry.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
That would be very helpful to her. I mean, even
Yeah.
this, she created using, where's the big one?
This
Do you
is
have the big
awesome.
one?
This is really cool.
Yeah.
Laura.
Yeah.
This is the old version, not.
Yeah, that's, but then it's bigger, so I wanted a sidebar to go in, you know, and so when she created the graphic, I was like, that's perfect, we can use it right into a sidebar. And you can see, she used a template she could find online, and then she put the information in, but it's not a simple thing like, oh, change colors, you know, she has to really go in there and figure out how to
It'd be
do
easier if she
that.
had the software.
If she had software.
Yeah, we'll talk to Mike Ronick and see.
I'm emailing him right now.
Oh, thank you.
This is
Oh,
really
thank
great,
you.
though. Like, you guys did a great job on this.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I just showed up.
I think it looks really good. I love the graphics. I think
Yes, that is it's very essential to our needs.
I think that they just are a lot more impactful than writing.
Text.
Like, I'm gonna look over here
That's
at
right.
this text. I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
gonna read all that.
That's right. It is.
I mean, that, I will, but I mean,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
just your standard person out there,
Right.
their eye is gonna go to the infographics,
Yeah.
which, if we could, maybe I'm a little concerned about some of this text being too small.
Right, which is what I'll work with her on.
Okay.
Yeah, see, the thing is, we have to make sure of a couple of things. One is layout, schematics, this has to be maybe not bold font, it's over, left justified, all those little nitty gritty things. We'll make sure that things are legible and impactful, especially what's more important should be more important and is made bigger. But again, this was, you know, towards our final job.
Got it.
As, you know, we get more content in, it'll be easier to create a more finalized.
Mhm.
But we just wanted to have something so we could all take a look at it.
Yeah.
And to see where basically our thoughts are. And if you have any feedback,
The percentage for the arts, or the Americans for the Arts Study, they have a 2016 version.
We have the report on the Mosaic website for the AEP study.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe you guys could update some of these things. Yeah, because Mosaic, you guys play a role
Yeah,
in
we were
developing our
studying.
local, yeah, that'd be
so
awesome.
we actually have a Green Bay specific one?
Yes.
Oh, would that be better?
Yeah, and there's some really great information on there too.
So maybe that's what we pull.
Excuse me, is it Adobe Illustrator?
Yes.
Okay.
And Photoshop if possible.
Yeah, just
I mean, ideally the whole
Creative
suite.
Suite.
Photoshop?
The Creative
She
Suite,
does
they have
not.
all of them.
No, I don't know, do we have, anyway, I'll put it in there.
I do not,
Oh,
but
okay.
other people in our office do. Our design specialist does.
Okay,
So I was seeing it's called Adobe Suite, and that would be all of them.
Creative.
Creative Suite, yeah.
okay.
Okay. Any other comments on the fundraising packet or questions?
No, just thank you. This is
Yeah,
amazing.
thank you very much.
Is there any, one thing, and I'm looking towards them because they do this all day, every day for a living. Is there any one element that I might have forgotten that we needed?
Well, if it's, I don't know if it's on the contribution slip, but what it is exactly that they're giving their money to.
Right, so, that is an interesting question.
Like funding our programs kind of thing, or?
Like specifically, is it towards Like, how specific are you getting?
Yeah.
Where's it going to?
That's something I think.
That he addressed, yeah, it's actually on here. So
The chairman's report, I
having
talked
it-
about it a bit.
Including it on the contributions.
Oh, so,
And spelling
okay.
it out.
All right.
Can you show the contribution slip?
It's a basic slip, so it's not anything, it's just like a normal,
So something like your contribution will go towards our programs, such as.
But there might be a donor who just wants to give to the rotating arts program or to the annual grant.
do we wanna lock ourselves in though? Because we do kind of need overall funds right now. Maybe that's something that we do in the future, but I know that people like to give to one thing or the other.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What do you guys think about that?
I'm kind of, I don't know if I'd like to provide a specification. I think giving to us, like in general.
This is what the
is-
money goes for.
Yeah.
We'll put it to good use.
Because I know with the art garage, we did that, and it was so unnerving sometimes, because you're like, it's not right. And you can't
You
touch
can't use it.
You know?
Restricted.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I agree.
I think there's a difference between making sure that you're clear about operational,
Yes,
and staffing versus programming.
right.
So, if it is worded that it's going to these 3 programs versus operational
Operations.
staffing costs, I think that's where, if you make that difference.
That gets back again to the original thing I'm bringing up. Is it going to a corporation here?
Yeah.
It's going to be outsourced? Because that's where we get stuck with operational restricted funds, Fund A, B, and C.
Right. So,
And
do we want to do that? Because right now, we need funds for operational probably first, and then trickle down whatever we can get to fund programs.
I mean, we haven't really had to go through, we're gonna be funding 1 annual grants program and 3 rotating arts, so I think budget-wise, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, but then there's going to come a point where we need to be able to, future-proof her position.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely.
Because right now she's running on part-time, which only gives her a certain amount of hours that she can work, and that's not enough to actually do
Yeah.
everything that she does it.
So are we
all the
talking
time.
about splitting up, being able to donate in 2 different paths?
Yeah, but is that something we feel we need to do
No.
right now for our initial fundraising push?
I don't
or-
I think
so. What do you
whoever's
guys
making
think?
the talk needs to be able to explain that too.
Yeah, so right now we have on the second last paragraph where it says, the Green Bay Public Arts Commission relies entirely on donation and grants to fund its programs, administrative costs, and arts coordinator position. With your help, we can create a strong artistic cultural future for Green Bay. So, your support to the GBPAC helps further our cause, and for this, we thank you in advance. So,
Repeat it throughout all of your material.
again,
so
and
we're
again, that
contributing to the Green Bay
exact
Public
thing
Art
is-
Commission.
As an entirety.
Okay,
Yes.
it's not a capital campaign,
It
it's
is
not
not a
anything
capital
about any of these other
campaign, no.
entities.
Right,
okay?
so if we take this, do you feel that if we took this specific paragraph and put it into our, where would we,
Financial snapshot?
we're proud of what we've accomplished thus far, and then it goes down, with your ongoing contribution, so where it says with, the last paragraph there, it says with your ongoing contribution, we will be able to help continue to support local artists and be able to create a more public art. So we dump this paragraph and put that same one over this side?
Well, the thing is that
Yeah.
not everyone is gonna read all of
No.
the materials and it's
Yeah.
gonna get lost. So you want it to stand out
Mhm.
and you wanna be repetitive with your message throughout all of your material.
Mm-hmm.
Including, I would even put something similar on your contribution slip, or
Right.
even on that folder, on that front cover.
Yeah.
So then you have it throughout, so people who are just skimming because they
Yeah.
get so much mail or whatever the case, is they know what the overall message is.
Yeah,
So we should.
Could it be just a separate card? You know what I
that
mean?
is on top, that lays up on top.
Because if you're trying to squeeze everything in, maybe you just need another sheet.
We could actually put it on the back of the donation form and then have that
It's not a bad idea.
placed. So if you open the folder, that's actually placed this way with the back facing front. And then when you flip it over, it's actually the donation card.
I like that.
Do you like that? And then we'll have it on green. Well, no, what did they say about green? Green is good or green is bad? Green is good, right? Okay.
Orange is bad.
No, color psychology. So we do.
Who's making these judgments?
No.
psychologist.
Echo.
What? Color psychology, you can actually get books about it. And then-
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I think
So,
I'll find out more.
We'll put the green, that lime green, and then we'll put the on with like, we'll see what has better impact, white font or black font. Ideally, it's black now because it reads inverse. And have that, so that the first thing you see is that message. And then they flip over, they can give money, they can read the letter, and then go into the
Cool.
back to get more information.
I think it'd be good. Putting it here
Does
when.
anybody have, okay, now these packets then go to our cabinet, fundraising cabinet,
Mhm.
who use it as a tool to fundraise.
Yeah.
So here's the other question. Typically, when you have a fundraising cabinet, they themselves need tools. So they all are saying the same thing. I was wondering if we wanted to come up with a little, like, maybe 5 or 10 bullet points on what the GBPAC does, so that they have their little, they can create their own. Of course, we don't want to give them like a thing they have to read, like a call center, but you do want them to hit the same information
Right.
in their own words, kind of. But ideally, keep it the same, so they have their facts in front of them.
In the pitch. kind of.
Yeah,
okay.
in their pitch to their connections.
So maybe a little card with.
And normally it's a one sentence, a 4 or 5 sentence, and then a paragraph. I mean, if you want to go in depth, but you're right, that, like at the Boys and Girls Club, we have our sheet,
Mhm.
so that we're all talking the same lingo.
Same talking points.
So let's make
Yeah.
a pitch sheet or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, you don't have to make it fancy, it doesn't have to be on fancy card or anything. It just needs to be so that they each have their
That
own,
makes sense.
so they know the facts. Because someone's going to ask them something and they'll be like,
We should
"Oh."
have one for the commission too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for example, how many public art pieces are there already in Green Bay?
Right,
I
right.
should know that, I was at the,
Fact.
at the presentation, but I don't remember.
Yeah,
People
like
just
200.
200 plus,
Over
yeah.
200?
Yeah, something like that.
Right,
It's down here,
exactly. But it's
right
so
here.
much cooler when you
Yeah.
can say 273,
Yeah. So maybe like, yeah, we come
Oh,
up with
yeah,
a
over
pitch sheet.
200,
We'll have
yeah.
the facts that we'd all like to
Mm-hmm.
maintain, and then the points. Obviously, they're gonna have to know the programs front to back.
Yeah. Again, some highlighted points on what the programs are. We don't have to educate them, we just need them to go out there and get funds for us. But the more they know about us, the easier it is for them to make our case with their connections. So,
Okay.
that's,
In the
we need
document.
tools for them, but this tool is basically for the person who's going to be giving the money. So, we need to fill that gap, and that does not have to be fancy, so,
Okay.
okay?
And we're working on our cabinet. We have, I think, 3 committed people, and then maybe another one
When she sees stuff, yeah.
when she sees the stuff.
She's a
Yeah.
lawyer, so she's very specific.
Okay. And do we have a number that we'd like to hit for this?
Dollar amount?
Well, not dollar amount, people for the cabinet. We want to have like 5 people, 10 people, I don't know. What's typical for like a,
I would say, let's just have it as
it doesn't matter.
an open
Okay.
seat type thing. Because everybody has their own circles. You might, a person who's on the cabinet might hit someone who's extremely passionate about this and want to be involved. And you don't want to be like, oh, sorry, can't do it until next year, or, you can't. And the next thing we have to ask ourselves is this an ongoing effort? Is this something that we say it's a spring fundraiser? Is it a fall fundraiser? Are we fundraising, like when do we see this closing,
Okay. Should that
Because
be
some people
something-
might not want to have an ongoing commitment, like Susie, it's a 3-month effort. You're only committed to it for 3 months, thank you very much, and we really appreciate your effort. Or we're gonna say, oh, you have all year, and then they're sitting.
What does the GBNLC do, Celestine? Are
They have a campaign,
So it's one.
and I mean, it's usually short-lived. Even if short-lived is 3 months or a year, there's an end, because
Yeah.
people who will either write a check themselves, or who will find people who will write a check, do not want to be constantly fundraising, that's a position. By the way, the charities expect donations to go down because the standard deduction has gone up, so,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. You can still deduct, but it may not make a difference.
Yeah, so that's another thing we have to put in there. Well, okay, so, so if we're gonna do like a 3-year campaign, financial campaign, we do it for like maybe 1 year? No?
That's too long.
So you said 3 months to 1 year?
Yeah, I mean, but if you're raising $300,000, and it shouldn't take you a year to do that.
Okay.
Like, that's more like, but so the Railroad Museum has been raising money. They've been doing their thing for about a year.
Okay.
That's $20 million.
Wow.
So,
Let's go for a year.
I hear you, okay, so maybe 3 months.
but I think what you need to do is you just need to talk to people who've done this before.
Yeah.
And then get their input as to who and how long.
How long do you guys suggest? we
Well-
go for?
A capital campaign is different than seasonal giving. So if you're looking really for operational funds to sustain, then you're talking two different things. So if it's a capital campaign, usually it's for a project or it's just something tangible at the end of it. This is ongoing. So that's where I'm kind of torn because you need the operational support, which means then you look at a year longer, a calendar year, whatever the fiscal year is, and plan out, like right now, every one of us has in our mailbox, that the annual appeal before the end of the calendar year.
So
Some
operation,
organizations do a spring appeal, some have a match. So I guess the question is, and then I'll go back to what you were saying, what are we funding, completely operational at this point?
At this point,
So,
I think so.
Mm-mm.
No?
You don't think so?
No.
I think it's just one, right? We're financing,
or are you looking to set up an endowment? So is it a
Yes.
capital campaign for the endowment?
I mean, because we need that salary, which even if we were to make that a full-time position, that would be, Dawn Fuller had a rule of thumb that's $70,000 a year for a full-time position, which includes benefits. So if we were to look at that, but then, quite frankly, our footprint on funding art, especially all types of arts and humanities, is actually very small. So with an endowment, with, good money in the bank, you could actually fund some pretty great endeavors here.
With 300,000?
Well, I mean, 300,000 is just a number that we threw out there based on the GBNLC, but the GBNLC, their activities are very, very small and very
Do they have a paid
diffuse.
staff member?
I'm not sure how Will is paid.
Thought through CDBG.
Oh, so that's a community
So-
development block
Oh.
grant. Yeah, so,
It could
right,
be
which is
wrong,
not,
I'm pretty sure.
I mean,
To get 70,000, to get a salary off of, you're
Full-time.
talking a pretty high amount to draw.
yeah.
That's
But
why
it-
I'm not, okay, so could we say we do, we have a base, which is an ongoing fund, like donations, and that can be not this. This is actually our capital.
Well, so Beth, what do
Campaign?
you think? It seems like you were saying something different.
Well, I think the organization has to decide.
Okay.
Again, if it is to fund ultimately salary, then you push forward with the capital campaign, but you have to figure out those numbers because 4 to 5% off of a fund is not going to
No,
fund.
it's not going to cut.
$300,000 at 4%, that's the rate you get from Green Bay Foundation, is
Right.
$12,000.
Right.
That may fund part of a,
That might fund, the rotating arts program, but it's not going to fund the
Everything
position.
else, yeah.
So then is the reliance on then securing arts-related grants to fill the position.
Right.
And
That
then,
was
which,
the other part.
which makes it a full-time position.
Right,
Right.
exactly, that was. Like
So,
we're running around with
I know,
swords
that's-
now.
That's a great
so-
goal. I'd love for Laura's position to be full-time.
I agree, but then she has to spend most of her time applying for grants.
that
That
becomes a
bad?
problem.
Is that a bad thing?
Because it's really time consuming and there's no guarantee you're gonna get that money.
But, I mean, I like the idea, here's the thing, too. I like the idea of, there being an annual ask, once there's money in the bank.
Right.
Once a capital campaign has happened, and then there's an annual ask. I think that makes a lot of sense. It seems like a lot of organizations do that. But without that money, like a pot of money, I don't see how, we have money, I think, what did I determine in the beginning? 18 months?
Yes.
If we did all of the.
Exactly, and that
right.
was back.
18 months from June.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, yeah, in about a year.
Well, no, you've got like 6 months left.
No,
Oh,
18
a
18 months
year
from
now.
June.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, we got about a year. So, I like that idea, like, do a capital campaign, let's get the name out there, let's do a big push.
Mhm.
And then, every year we'll do like another small push.
Which means that the position needs to be full-time, for sure. It's not that's not part-time.
Okay.
I mean, I like that too, Kent, but that means full-time, for sure.
Okay. So
Okay,
then,
so-
if Laura's position's full-time and we're doing that ask, why does she still need to apply for grants then?
Because the city's, the stadium tax is dwindling down, and the city's not funding her position.
But if we're getting donations, if we have a $300,000,
But getting grants is also
Part
an
of
issue
the-
of making your place.
Okay.
Right? You're setting yourself up to say, this is who we are. I mean, Humanities Council, right? We know about all kinds of endeavors across Wisconsin because they've applied to the Humanities Council for grants.
Then why not take that money? I mean, there's grants.
And
Yeah.
often, so you'll have a committee and they're going out there and they're saying, okay, we need money for this organization. Well, by getting grants, it legitimizes you, say, oh, they've already received grants from XYZ
Right.
organization, you
Yeah.
know, because they see value in
Okay.
your organization. So grant writing in itself
It's
is a
science.
full-time job.
Yeah, it's a science.
And you really need to go with the best of the best, and that's where Martha Arndt, she is really the best in town, but she's also so busy.
okay.
And if you guys know of her, I mean, she is out of control. So, but then, you know, that's where I said, you know, if Laura can sit in one of those grant writing classes that they have occasionally in town, and, you know, just at least get the basics down, that'll help already, because I think she can make the case. And I think that, you know, we do have a good organization. I think we have a pretty good overall mission
Yeah.
that
Okay.
it won't be impossible.
Okay, so, what do you suggest, Beth? I really have I don't know what to do, so I'm listening to you guys. We have to make a decision based on the people who know what they're talking
I'm gonna
about.
kind of pick on some, is there any, Celestine, is there any talk at the city level? Because I know when the money came in, I wasn't part of the advisory. It's just, it is what it is. There's no additional way of,
That is it.
okay.
It is
That's it.
one-time money.
Yeah.
So then if you're really looking to sustain the position, to manage the programming on a part-time basis, then you really have to figure out what that dollar amount is, because even if you got $300,000 in 3 months and it was all managed, you're still not gonna have a draw that's gonna be enough
Yeah.
to support the position. So I think if that's really the ultimate goal, then it really needs to happen soon. And you have to look at all the different other campaigns that are happening within the community.
Yeah, there's so many right now.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I'd say probably connect with the foundations. Like last time they weren't very I mean, because we weren't as far as we are today, I think today we'll be able to further give them more of that information that we weren't able to last time.
Okay.
I think that sitting with them might help. I think that making this into an initial push, I think that whoever's on the fundraising cabinet, I think what we should do, it's a biannual 3-month commitment
Okay.
on the onset. So what we say is, we'll do a push in spring, we'll do a push in fall, right? Based on what happens in spring. So if we're able to raise 300,000 in spring alone, then we don't have to convene necessarily in fall, we can convene the next spring and have the same goal, right? So we'll do an additional 3,000 in a year, right? That way it gives them kind of a motivation to not have to come back to the table
Okay.
again in 3
Mhm.
months, right?
So 2 years then?
It's biannual.
Okay.
So they'll come back with whether or not we've hit our target.
Okay.
in spring.
So if we hit the target in spring, then we don't have to do a fall.
Not necessarily, but then we want them to come back again in spring, and I would say do another 300,000 ideally. So you do, once you had 600,000, go to the foundation, say, we have 600,000. You know, how much can we get? Can we now, and of course you have your ongoing donations hopefully, or maybe some grant writing going on, that will bring some extra cash flow. And then see if at that point we can actually fund maybe at best a part-time position
Yeah.
first. You know?
Yeah, it sounds like that wouldn't be a problem.
Oy, numbers. It all depends on what happens also in the next tax year, how much people are willing to give again, right? So, let's figure that out. Let's look very
Okay.
short-term right now, and then we'll hit long-term.
Okay, so spring, I think that's a good destination to have a capital campaign. So we'll do like a 3-month capital campaign in the springtime
Mhm.
with a $300,000 goal.
Yeah, especially, the best part is, once those, I don't know how far those pads are in, but once those pieces of art go up, you'll be having PR, like, you know, you're gonna be out there doing grand unveilings and, you know, having ribbon cuttings or whatever. That's really gonna put you guys in the eye, ideally, of the community, right? If you play your cards right, you can get coverage and stuff like that, and always make a pitch. We are looking for donations, we're actively seeking donations right now to do more of this in Green Bay, make your community a little bit, you know, like really appeal to the heart. And then go and then say whoever is interested in helping us, you know, further this mission, please come and contact Laura.
Okay.
And then ideally you get more people in the next, or a different set of group of people in the next 3. If the first, you know, that first cabinet was like, oh, thank you, and then they leave.
What about corporate sponsors, is that?
Yeah, that's always a good thing. I mean, basically.
But we don't have any
foundation,
restrictions as a commission?
Yeah, you shouldn't. I mean, anyone, as long as our mission aligns with their mission, and as long as we can determine that this is, you know, when they give here, it's not a capital, political contribution, like all that gray. We just have to make sure that there's a definite line in that. And that's maybe something that we need to write down in those bullet points that we hand out to our fundraisers, right? That they understand, that they can say, no, we are not, we might be out of the office of the mayor, but we are not a political group, per se. So if we can specifically say that, then, you know, the Cloud Foundation, Schneider Foundation, oh my gosh, there's so many of them in town. It's crazy. There was these people down in, who gave all that money to St. Norbert's too, you know, to develop things. They were gonna open an art gallery or something down there,
Okay.
weren't they?
Well, let me, so to wrap this up, we're going to be doing a biannual fundraising endeavor in which in springtime, we'll have our first capital campaign where we'll run for 3 months in the spring. Our goal is $300,000, and those funds will go towards our operating and programs costs. And then in the fall, we'll evaluate our spring fundraising efforts and determine how we're going to proceed in the fall. Okay?
Have we discussed a fundraising event?
We did. Yes, we talked about that early on, but we didn't make any progress on it.
Okay. I think that might be a really good opportunity to have an event to showcase art, and, yeah, ask for donations.
I mean, how
Really-
successful was Catalyst, right?
Yeah.
that's
So,
great.
I
But it
mean-
also was like 20,000 million hours of time
Yeah,
that
the
is
question is whether or
volunteered.
not,
I think
right.
it's worth considering
Yes.
partnering with DGBI or on Broadway and throwing a big event, a pop-up art gallery, something like Catalyst, but focused toward the fundraising for
Mhm.
GBAC. Something worth considering.
Yeah.
If the group isn't interested. I understand it's a lot of time, but if we can form some partnerships with those organizations, that would definitely help.
How and when? So besides, so here's the thing, with the person that would be organizing this would be Laura. And unfortunately, with her timing, we are literally at max capacity with her. So the question is this something that we would then ask the fundraising cabinet individuals to then see if they could reach out to one of those organizations to do something? So we're asking for volunteers to help us set up an event?
I think we would ask the cabinet to help with the event
Okay,
and also reach out to those organizations.
okay. That I can see possible. Because
You can even piggyback on an existing event.
Well, that's,
Possibly.
okay, that's where, so I'm gonna be doing a few events this year under my business, which is for-profit. I don't have 501(c) status. One of them is in conjunction with the fire department. And it's like a multi-step, and potentially we could roll part of that in, but I was hoping to make money off of it. You know, because I'm an artist and I'm super rich, but I'd like more money. So,
Then I'll be your man.
and it's a public art thing, so I could see how this would absolutely fold into it. I just gotta figure out, like, you know, how that's gonna work. Because it would be totally relevant. I don't know if that's conflict of interest also.
Well, here, okay, that sounds like a conflict of interest, just hearing that out loud. But, for example, if we have our first unveiling, you know, first major piece that's gonna go up,
That'd be great.
you know, and you have a table there, you know,
We
and
could make that an event.
you
or
could
something.
make that into an event. Maybe we could, well, now here's that's where you need volunteers. So maybe actively seeking some non-position volunteers, right? So like, you know, others to come together, maybe a group of 5 or 10 individuals. And it would just be, you know, an unveiling, you know, at the unveiling you can receive donations there, you can receive volunteer names, right? You really have to have a little group of people who are ready to be your hands and feet at all these events and really going out there and making a big deal out of it. And because of the press coverage and the community support, hopefully, in that area, try to see who, like, you know, there's Old Maine, their district,
Yeah,
right?
Old
They
Main
have their,
downtown.
yeah, all of those
Broadway.
districts, they typically have someone who's the organized group of that area. Maybe if a piece is going up in one of those districts, connect with the people in one of those organizations,
Yeah.
and then do a
Okay.
joint thing there. And then say, please do it for us and fundraise for us in that event. Because it helps them, it helps us. I mean, it might be
Yeah.
a good partnership thing anyway.
It's not a bad idea to tie it
Then you
into
don't have
this
to organize
existing-
people.
So we have 2 works that are already done, ready to go up for the annual or rotating arts program. We just need the pads, and that's one of the things I'll talk about in a moment. But I could totally see how every time we put something in, we could tie that into some kind of event. And, you know, coordinate with music and performance art and food to be there.
Yep,
Um,
and they already have their teams in place where they know how to organize this thing pretty quickly.
Oh,
Yes.
So, and they have people who either volunteer or work for those organizations who have their roster.
I would suggest
So-
like the Green Bay Film Festival.
Yeah.
That's an annual thing. They draw people, they have a team. I can see that collaboration. It's art,
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's an annual thing. There are,
Remember, a lot of those events that they have too are fundraisers for themselves.
Yeah.
True.
And that's why I'm saying that we
True.
need to be very, very in aware of that we're not gonna eat out of their fundraising
Correct.
Well,
efforts.
we could fund, or at least partially fund, one of their efforts, you know, and then we could use that as a fundraising effort, like pay for what they're doing, like to do like an outdoor screening or something like that on the city deck or something. Yeah, I like that idea. The Green Bay Film Festival. And do you know the folks over there?
yeah,
Okay, cool. Maybe,
I used to be the chair.
so you know a lot of folks over there. You are the folks.
No, no longer. It was-
Cool, all right. So I like that we're thinking about different ways of having an event and, you know, doing some incognito and guerrilla funding
Yeah,
for this. That's
there's
really
a lot
cool.
of that needs to happen first, I think.
Okay. Let's, anything else to discuss for that? We got through the packet. We talked about the outlook for the fundraising cabinet. I think we have a pretty good plan now. So in
Mhm.
spring, we'll be doing a 3-month, $300,000
Mhm.
capital campaign. And I think that's great.
Mhm.
Okay.
Do you have
Thank you
any
very much.
idea who would be the volunteers? They got ideas of people that would.
Yeah, for the cabinet?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a list going so far. So, and once we get this finalized, we're gonna have more people who I think will
Will
join.
automatically get drawn in,
Yeah.
I think.
Okay, so we'll be moving on then. No new business. Bills, no bills, informational. So I just have a few things here on the chairperson's report. I talked with Jamie in Public Works, and he says it's doable that we could get a few done in January. So I asked him, if we get 3 or 4 done, he thinks that's possible. He has to coordinate with contractors out of Appleton, and it's probably going to cost a little bit more.
Yeah, I was
So-
gonna say, that'll cost more money.
Mhm. Yeah, he said that. So we're on par. He's gonna let me know when he gets an estimate that's accurate. And, but he's willing to work with us. He knows that we have people that have been awarded the grant, so hopefully we can get 3 or 4 done in January and the rest done in springtime. So that's my update on the pads. Tiffany's here, and in our January meeting, she will be on the commission, I believe. She was passed through the, okay, very good. So that's gonna be exciting. Also, we are losing Pooja today. So not only is she stepping down, but she's moving away. So.
Only 1,000 miles. That's nothing. You can do
So-
that in 3 days.
Yeah. But we thank you so much, Pooja, for everything that you've done. We have a little card here for you that you can take, but it's been.
And a siren.
Yeah.
At the same time.
It was planned.
Thank you. Yeah, that's totally cool.
It's a reflection of our emotions.
We tried to get a flyover.
No, that's a little harder. I know.
Yeah.
Packers can't do that all the time either.
But thank you so much for everything that you've done.
Thank you.
It's been awesome, and I've learned so much.
It's been a ride, guys.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
And you've helped really establish
lot,
the
yeah.
Public Arts Commission in Green Bay, so thank you very much for all that you've done.
Thank you so much.
I hope you guys have a lot of support. I'll keep eyes on it, get people involved from afar.
If ever you're in the
Call them
neighborhood,
and
want
yell
to
at
swing
them if
by
they
on Wednesday at 8 o'clock, meetings.
Yeah, I'll watch the videos over several days. But no, thank you guys. I will miss you all.
Thank you.
It has
Thank you so
been
much.
awesome.
Okay, coordinator's report.
Insurance for the rotating arts program. We have the 2 quotes. Celestine and I were gonna meet with Joanne last weekend. I was unable to make that because of the weather. We have that rescheduled though, yeah?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Now we're running up in the holiday, so.
Yeah.
Do you know what it's rescheduled for? Okay.
I'm meeting with Joanna in January to go over the annual grants program contract and stuff. And I also need to meet up with her to go over WPS contracts and stuff. But
Mhm.
we'll be meeting in January for sure.
WPS. That's what I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens there.
That's actually what I'm going to talk about next in my report. So you probably have to go.
Oh, sorry, I have to recuse myself.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh. How interesting.
Not to kick you out, but kicking you out.
I can't even hear it, so.
So WPS basically timeline of the meetings for next month. So the deadline is going to be the end of this month. So all of the applications need to be into me by the 31st. Following all the applications being turned into me, you guys will get to review them initially. So
Oh, we're all done.
I'll be emailing you guys this form.
Right.
You'll need to be filling out the form for each application that we get. At the moment, I have 3 applicants, but there are several others who are interested in applying. So you'll fill out that form for each of the applicants with your scores. And then on the 10th, I need those forms all turned into me. You can scan them in, or if you just want to drop them off, whatever works best for you. I'll need all of those forms though, so I can kind of tabulate the scores and see who our top 3 finalists are. From there, I'm going to be reaching out to them and setting up the interview date, which is going to be on the 17th. So that's a special meeting for us. So there's going to be 2 meetings in January. But at the special meeting, then we'll hold the interviews, which I also have copies of the interview questions. We ran these by Armin WPS Foundation, and they've all been approved. And then by that time, we're also going to be having a similar review form to that initial one, but it'll be a little more in-depth. It'll also include reference questions, because we are going to be, well, I'll be contacting their references and kind of questioning them and vetting them out beforehand. And then kind of giving you guys just a report based off of their references. So that's kind of the status at the moment. Did I forget anything?
I think you got it. And do you want to mention why he had to recuse
I'm
himself? Does
assuming he
everybody
applied
know?
for,
He's going to be.
He's gonna apply for it.
yeah, that's what I thought.
It's a good project. Does the score become public record?
So,
That's,
that is, I'm not 100% sure. I think the answer is yes.
Okay.
Because there's no way for us to keep it in closed session, because it isn't, they're not applying, it's a grant application, it's not employment. I think that, obviously, when you float the 3 up and you have conversation around the 3, you want to make sure that these are 3 good candidates that you can speak publicly about without adversely affecting their
Reputation.
reputations. Right.
So.
But they're not employees, so.
I don't think we were going to have each individual sheet though. We were just going to have like a total
Oh,
tally
wow.
at the end.
Right, that's right. So,
Okay.
and the way that we would do that is like, so what you fill out are notes for yourself, and so then they're not public record.
Okay.
Then the final score would be public.
Okay. And is it averaged and weighted in any way?
There would be no, I mean, unless you decide to weight each question, but individual members wouldn't have weighted grades submitted, but if you want to weight them, you could. This is an issue at the humanities, and any other grant funding thing I've been on, you know, you make your grades and then you talk about it, and then there's a vote. I mean, so the grade is informational sometimes, and sometimes the grade is the thing.
Deciding factor.
Right, but, you know, there's two pieces to this. The first piece being getting to the 3, and the last piece being choosing among the 3.
But in some of your committees, I mean, you can have committees, and that's discussed. Let's say in selection committee, they come to the board or the commission for a motion and recommendation. So you don't necessarily have to see that, or does it all have to be transparent and recorded?
Well, so there isn't a selection committee, so it's basically GBPAC selecting them. So there, even if it were a subcommittee of the GBPAC, that would still be subject to.
Okay, that's what I want to have to do. See, our shack with a little bit in terms of, this is public. That's why this
So-
corporate, what we're giving our money to, is it capital or is it operational? This all has to be,
Identify.
you know, you almost need a bylaws, a structure, we stick to our rules, you know.
I do think we have something like that.
Okay, I know there is,
There are bylaws, but it still doesn't negate open meetings.
Yeah.
okay.
Open meetings will hold over the bylaws. unless this is a separate 501c3,
Which we are.
which is not affiliated with the city.
We are totally.
You're affiliated with, that's what I was asking.
We're out
at
of
the
You're
the
a
beginning.
commission
office.
of the city.
Yeah, we're out of
Okay,
the
that-
office.
That I
of
don't
mayor.
understand
No,
how that's
actually,
different than.
Not anymore?
No, because Laura doesn't work for the mayor's office, she works for development department.
So now we are at,
Oh, since Laura's been hired, it's been
Got it.
the development department, yeah. But it wouldn't matter if it's the mayor's office or development department, it's still all open meetings.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I know when we score RFPs, I guess when we score RFPs for development, that's not public record, but I guess it's because it's staff scoring them rather than the commission,
Correct.
rather than RDA
Thanks.
scoring.
Right.
So that's the difference.
But the final that you present to the committee is public.
Sure,
Yeah.
but we don't provide
No.
the individual score
No,
sheets.
but that's why those could be, but even the individual score sheets are notes, really, for you
Right, yeah,
to
'cause
refer
that-
to.
right. This is just part of the process.
Yeah.
I mean,
those
it's not gonna
are-
be the determining
No,
factor. Yeah,
exactly.
So,
Right, that's
yeah.
what I wanted to ask.
yeah.
That maybe just writing a little thing on top to say that would help, only because, when people are making their notes, they know how much to write and not to
That'll be kept internally.
Yes,
write. Okay. All right,
Just the
That's
scores.
for like me to see.
okay.
Because then I'll be kind of combining all of those and then coming up with the final three,
Okay.
which then that'll be public.
Mhm.
well, actually, I mean, the scoring sheets, the final, like, the final number on the scoring sheet for the, let's say there are 10 people who apply, those numbers are public. The final numbers are public.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
that's what I'll
Yeah.
be pulling those, like, the final score. I'll be
Right.
pulling those, like, Commissioner 1 voted 30 points for
I wanna be number
applicant
one.
A. Those are all, but if you like write like, I didn't like this, it's crummy, like, I'm not gonna put that up there. Commissioner 1 said this was crummy. No.
Because those are just notes.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
Did we rely on
That's
another
exciting.
jurisdiction for this score sheet?
We ran that through, I pulled that score sheet from when the city did the Life of the River project.
Good.
So that's basically what they use for
Okay.
those pieces out there. And we did run it by Carmen,
Right.
who's kind of the voice of the WPS Foundation for us.
Perfect.
And our contact there. And she didn't have anything that she wanted to add on, so.
No.
Good.
I think this pretty much captures what we need. I don't know if we need to weight anything.
Yeah.
I would say if we wanted to, maybe 1 is more important than all the others. Number 3 is probably the least important to me anyway, compared to the others. But I'm comfortable with leaving it as is. and
Yeah,
just
I don't wanna
leaving
wait
it.
them. I'll forget.
Well, and sometimes too, if you have all the same numbers, I mean, I don't know, that reveals something about the quality of the piece or
Yeah.
whether or not the piece meets the standards we've set for it.
What does, the piece is very interactive. Like
So,
very, that's a funny word to put right in there. Because either the piece is interactive or not. So there's a degree of very, which is subjective. Right?
I mean, art in itself is subjective, so someone could see a piece that a lot of people take photos with, and they see that people are interacting with it, but maybe they're like, I don't really want to take photos.
Mm-hmm.
So, to like the people taking the photos, they're like, oh, this is super interactive, but then someone they're like, oh, I can see that it's interactive, but I don't feel compelled to interact with it.
Right, okay.
So I guess that's more like a personal opinion.
Yeah, it's like that's it, and it's weighted. I mean, the same as the others,
Mhm.
you know. So well, you know, if everyone can answer that question.
I
then
think
that's very
because
good.
interactivity is such a broad.
It's very good. Very interactive.
Yes.
I mean, you could have a piece where people can literally climb on it and like
Right.
Yeah,
become part of
yeah,
it, or you can
yeah.
have a piece where people can just take photos with
With
it.
it, yes.
I mean, they're both interactive, but it's just a different.
And that was the
type
question
of-
that was actually on the butterfly, or the other sheet?
No, I pulled
Oh.
this one because this is actually what we had requested in the RFP.
Mm-hmm.
We are looking for a piece that is highly interactive and
Highly
encourages
interactive,
like selfie opportunities and for people to get involved.
Yeah.
I like it.
I can reword it.
No, I think it's a very interesting question. I just wanted to know how did it become very interactive?
Because based off of the applications that I've received so far, I mean, there are some where I'm like, this is definitely more interactive than the other
Others.
piece. So,
Cool. Well, you guys are gonna have fun with it.
Can we bring them back in?
yeah,
Yeah.
I've done them.
You sure you're done?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, this is, just to reiterate, this is a public meeting, but it just behooves Kent's application and the
Oh, yeah,
integrity of
yeah,
the
yeah,
information.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you should have left.
Absolutely.
Get that guy out.
Yeah. Now we should hide some of this stuff.
Yeah. That's what I did already. I won't know what it is, except for yours, it's all out there.
He can't read upside down.
Can
He's
he
not that good.
Can he not? He has children.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else in the coordinator's report?
Nope.
Now,
Oh, we're talking with EWGB about meeting.
Ah, yeah,
So excited about that.
yeah.
Good.
So, a while ago, about a month ago, I had a conversation with Allison Gates. This is like, I could probably, anyways. She's a professor at UWGB in the arts department, and we talked about the Lawton Gallery and how they have challenges out there, and wouldn't it be awesome if Lawton Gallery was downtown?
Ooh.
Or someplace in Green Bay. And yes, we're all in favor. So Laura's an alumni of that department, so she knows a lot of people, and so we're going to be talking about what that might look like. So maybe having someone with the economic development background at the meeting might help.
I'd love to help.
Okay, so we're just exploring different ways of having like a fine arts gallery in Green Bay, which is really exciting, I think.
It's fantastic.
I'm fine with that.
And
Fine
it's,
art
and
gallery.
and it's a fine arts gallery
Student gallery.
that is in collaboration with UWGB, and the GBPAC supports that.
Well, not necessarily. No. This
Oh.
is just a side thing. As of
Oh.
right now, it's just a conversation.
Okay,
So
I'm just trying to figure out what's the role of the GBPAC.
yeah, that's why maybe I should adjourn and then we can talk about it.
Good.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's fun stuff. So, anything else? Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Well, I just want, last time we talked about the courthouse as a possible
Oh, location for the
Indoor.
indoor, yeah. I was
Brandon.
trying to remember.
Brandon.
Right, yeah, the library, why wouldn't we use the library? They got a stage, they got a theater, they got seats. It's gonna be bigger or as big as the courthouse, and it's open to the public.
Mhm.
All you gotta do is make sure it's scheduled.
The performance and coordinate that with a free. Yeah, that's an option.
Why would you use the courthouse?
Yeah,
Well, but
Where?
here's the thing, if you're gonna use the library, then why don't you just do it at the school?
well, the
Because the
library's more
school-
centrally located, and I thought the school would be fine
Well,
for
the
myself,
school-
but.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
Schools are a little bit bit stronger barrier to entry. So, you
Oh,
know,
for some people, yeah.
going inside of a building is the first step. You know, that's a barrier of entry, because you have to go inside of a building, and then like, you have to be at schools, technically you have to sign in and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to a public show, you have to, do the ticket. So it's just stronger barrier of entry at a public school. Courthouse we were talking about because it's free, and,
Anyone who wants.
But we don't schedule the courthouse.
I know.
Right, I
we
was
have
gonna
to
look
coordinate
into
with
that, but then I
county.
thought, before I did that, I thought, wait a minute, Bronx County Library is a far better
There'll be more
venue.
people there, I think, that are
Yeah.
So,
interested.
I mean,
People to the
we don't really know,
business.
Or they're not.
yeah, how that project's panning out.
But it's a good plan B.
Yeah,
But I'd rather make that Plan A than Plan B.
Plan A.
I mean, I think the courthouse is not,
City Deck and Spring is Plan A, isn't it?
well, I thought that was a problem as far as students.
the way it was
Yeah.
passed, and also the way I was gone at that meeting, and the way it was passed was just the way that the application was written.
Yes.
So there was
No
nothing in
contingent.
there about, so.
No.
And when we-
kind of miss.
And when we awarded the grant, we did bring that up, and we said that that wasn't necessary.
But he didn't
for the public.
augment the application before
Yeah,
that.
because we decided that regardless of whether or not this becomes an outdoor
Piece.
that promoting performing arts with a local
Talent,
talent,
local
right,
writer,
to encourage
local.
that
Yeah.
was, it far outweighed the, because it's a public school, and yes, you do have to get tickets, but there were tickets available or something like that, and that, supporting that theater arts seemed extremely beneficial to the city, especially because of the topic that they were
Yeah.
covering.
Yep.
And so we said that it shows value, so we granted the money, without any contingencies, only because, otherwise it would not have happened. He would have not been able to have that show go on. Where, at the time, there were other submissions that would have gone on regardless. So we said, you know what, we want to see this grow, we want more people to
But
write.
that's, yeah, it turns out that that wasn't entirely accurate, like from his perspective, like they were still gonna do those shows. But
The second one too, like the one that he wrote.
though, that was, yeah, it was, it's kind of, what happened is we're funding his project as written.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think if, we had the conversation again, maybe something else would happen, but doesn't matter, because that's what it is.
Yeah, I think you need to really deeply consider barrier to entry.
Yes.
As a building is not a barrier, it's open to the public.
It is a barrier, like it technically,
Yeah, but if it's
by
open to the
definition,
public, that
it's a barrier.
means you're stuck with things that are outside.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the library is a
I
barrier, the
disagree.
courthouse is a barrier.
Yeah,
They're all
those are
inside.
barriers of entry, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so
um,
I just think, I would encourage you to consider that.
Be more
because-
flexible on that?
Yeah, because it's winter 6 months of the year here, and then you don't have any, you won't have, I mean, where do films get shown?
what we need to interpret is whether or not we use that barrier of entry as an outlier to reject a proposal. Like, we could say, we could recognize, yes, that's a barrier of entry, but it's still public, it's still free, do we want to go ahead and fund it? And we should consider that, definitely. But we also need to recognize that inside the building is a barrier of entry, it's a step. So, like, at least from the perspective of public art, that's traditionally, that's recognized.
Right, with the public art, you'll see, it should be openly and
Outside
accessible.
and
Open
free,
and accessible to all.
Yeah, that means you won't fund performing arts.
That's a.
Well, I mean,
Us
we're
only
taking it into
summer.
consideration, that doesn't mean we're cutting it
Yeah,
out.
that's
Yeah.
not, what you said is not true. We will
Again, it's
fund
like-
those things, we just need to recognize that we're going to be funding interior things also. And that's fine.
So the other thing too is that Laura and I, so it's year end, and, the GBPAC funds continue onward, but, and because it's kind of a drawdown, you don't need to meet your budget. So if you don't meet your budget, if you don't spend all your money, it goes back to the general fund. That's not gonna happen with the GBPAC funds, but this check has not yet been cut to Brandon Rockstro. So this is something it seems like there's something that's unclear here, that where the check has yet to be cut. So there's just some,
To the perform, for the.
to the school district.
Oh, yeah.
School?
It goes to the school district, not to Brandon himself.
Yeah. Yep,
Oh,
we
really?
know that.
Yeah, so I mean,
If I knew that.
like I said, it's not,
I'm not sure if
it
I
doesn't
knew
go back to
that.
contingency, so there isn't, the clock isn't ticking, but it's just time to settle up those funds.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if it goes to the school district, what are they gonna do with it?
No,
No,
it's
it'll go
specifically
to-
for
Yeah.
the funds,
They
yes.
can earmark it, we can send it to, because the school district can receive the funds, Brandon really can't.
Yeah.
And the school, and he's a teacher and he has a writer to do that work, and so that would just go into the fund for his program, which is very
Oh.
easy to earmark to the school
oh,
district,
okay.
but.
His project is through the school district.
Yep,
Which is why we
yep,
have to
yep,
do
yep,
it.
yep.
Yeah.
Can we cut that check without having the contract finalized?
No, I checked.
I was gonna
into
say,
that.
because that's why I
That's
haven't
the
pushed
issue.
through with it,
Yes.
because we don't have that set.
Yes.
And that isn't gonna get set until January, now that our legal department is tightening.
Right.
Do you have an appointment for that conversation? And will you be
That's the
talking
one
about
in January.
insurance at that same,
I'm
No,
not gonna talk about
that's
insurance
a different
before that,
conversation.
but,
Yeah.
is there a date on that?
yeah.
And that's
It's-
before?
Yeah, I couldn't find it in my calendar. No, I mean, the insurance conversation got canceled and that is moved until after the holiday.
After the holiday?
Yes.
Okay. In January?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Very good. Thank you, Pooja.
Good journey.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I only got 2 meetings this year.
I know, well, who knows, I might start a little art.
Have a great,
Just
great day.